Hi, we're here with Sylvia Massy at EastWest Studios in Hollywood, and we are doing studio science as part of Red Bull Music Academy, Los Angeles. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, Rebecca.
How are you?
Very good.
Good. I can't wait to get into your career and especially the track when we'll get into sort of the guts of what you do. But starting off, tell me a little bit about the hallmarks of your career. You know, sort of starting and how that, you know, how you even began working in the industry.
Well, I started in college radio. Actually, I was at University of California University, and at the college radio station, I got really involved in doing production, radio production, and so I learned how to use the equipment there. And I took those skills with me. As soon as I figured out that radio is not really about the music as much as it is about advertising, I wanted to go back into the music more. So I learned how to use the music studio equipment, and got jobs starting positions in San Francisco at a little studio there called CD Presents, and worked with a band called the Sea Hags, where I was co-producing with a young guitarist named Kirk Hammett, and the album came out great. The Sea Hags album with Kirk. What I had to do, I realized, is if I was going to do anything with my career, because I really love the idea of production, I was going to have to go to LA. So I came to LA and started working at a studio called Larrabee Studios. And that's where I started working with Prince, and got connected with the young band Tool, and kind of jumped off from there.
You know, what is this? Do you have like a one studio sort of philosophy that you apply to every sort of artist that you work with, or that you kind of like to create?
Well, I think that there's great music in every genre, so I try not to get pigeonholed into one specific genre, and it's easy to do that. When you have success with an artist like Tool, then you're asked to do more projects like Tool. But I made an effort to expand into country, into Zydeco, into all kinds of other genres to really get a handle on the production points that make those records great too. Yeah, I approach every project basically the same way, and I want the song to be the most important part. So we start with material when we start working together, and we look for the best songs that will make an album or an EP or whatever it is that they're intending on doing. And then I'll ask the client, you know, what are you going to do with this music? Is it for sale? Is it a legacy project that you're going to just keep for yourself? And then if it is for sale, then I'm going to make it more commercial to compete with the other offerings in the market. You know, what's going to be on the same radio station or on the same playlist as your music. So I take these things into account. So we work on the music first, and then we'll go into the studio. I spent a lot of time working with Rick Rubin, and just working with him, I learned a lot about how to bring the right people together to make magic in the studio. So he'll choose the songs, he'll choose the personnel to record the songs, he'll choose the studio musicians that will make those songs really pop. And in all those details, he just puts all these people together in the right studio, like this place, like EastWest Studios, and then he just lets everyone do their thing, and it's worked time and time again. So I really learned a lot from Rick about that. So I pay attention to the people that are all going to be together on that project, and I try to get the right people to come to the session.
What about analog to digital? I know that's probably, I mean, obviously you've made that transition. And
yeah.
Are there what do you miss the most, and what do you love the most?
Well, about it's been a while now that I've been mixing in the box, and mixing in the box with Pro Tools is great. I mean, the freedom it gives you for doing recalls of mixes is invaluable, because clients like to change mixes, and it might be a week or 2 weeks or half a year before they get the mix just the way that they like it. So, and that's great on the computer. It works great. But if you're using one of these old desks, this is analog. It's really, really hard to bring that mix, the original mix, back, and then make the changes and then print it again. So, but there's something about the analog consoles like this Neve. This is an 8078, and there's something really special about the sound of the analog that I miss in the box, even though the plugins have gotten great now. So I've started doing a hybrid approach, and I use the Pro Tools in the box and then have it come out onto the console in stems. Instead of each individual track, it's just little groups of instruments, like here's the drums on 2 tracks, bass on 2 tracks, etc. And then that way, you use all the muscle in the computer, but you get that analog sweet sound, and you get the graininess and the punch of the Neve console. And I think that the hybrid approach is the best way to mix. So I embrace both analog and digital. I think there's great reasons to work on both.
No, so tell me about Turbonegro, which we're going to work with today. We're going to watch you make your magic. What about them? What was what drew you to them?
Well, I've been a fan of this band, Turbonegro, for a while. They've been, they're from Norway, from Oslo, Norway. And I just mixed their latest album. And I love their sense of humor, and I think that they have a great energy, and they consistently write great songs. I have the session up. I've done the mix already, so things are laid out. But we'll start with the drums, and I've got my volume here. So let me start here. Okay, there we are. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is a blend of all the drums, but I want to have the kick and snare really poke out a lot more. And I'm going to build this mix just one instrument at a time. So we're going to start with the drums. So let's start, we want that kick and snare to kind of pop out.
Okay.
So, yes, if you could patch in the 1176 on channel 1.
Okay.
See what we got here. She's going to patch in a compressor. Now I'm taking a compressor, and I'm going to have just the kick and snare come out of that compressor, and I'm going to give it some extra snap. I call it spank.
I love it. I was going to say, this spank.
The kick and snare needs to really, right?
Sure.
All right, let's see. Here we go. And you can see the more I turn up the input, the more spanky it gets. All right. Now let me turn on the rest of those drums and see what we got. So now that kick and snare really sticks out,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the idea with the hybrid mixing is I'm going to do all the most of the work in the computer, and I'm just going to leave these faders here, basically on one line, like it's going to be minus 20. So let me add the bass, and the bass will be on minus 20. So you can hear that now. Let me see if I can turn that up a little bit. All right, and there's some claps and stuff. I'm going to add some percussion in here now. There we go. We got a little shaker. All right. Ooh, nice. Okay. And let me bring in some guitars. Let me see if I can adjust that a little bit. Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning again and listen closely to the bass. And I'll just solo up the bass here so you can see the plugin that I have on the bass and the way that I have the session laid out. Because what I've done here is I've taken each instrument and I've summed them all in the box to an aux track. So here's my aux track for the drums. And then that aux track goes out of the interface and comes up here. So my drums are here, but only on two channels. There's several tracks in here, and it's all just being summed out of two channels. Same with all the other instruments. Here's the bass, and there's 3 bass tracks, but I'm going to have them summed together, and I'm going to use a plug-in on the sum. And this is it's called a Pwig Child. It's by Waves. It's a plug-in, it's a compression plug-in, and it emulates the sound of a Fairchild 670. It looks a lot like a 670. They actually have one right there. There's a real one in the rack.
Right.
But for this, I'm going to just only have this 670 on the bass in the box. And that bass then will come up here on two channels. And then I go down the line here. These guitars also go into a sum. So 2 channels here, and that comes up here. Let's see what else we have here. We've got 7 and 8, that's still guitar. And 9 and 10 is more guitar. Is that right? 9 and 10, more guitar. Okay. All right, I'll bring that up. And then we have piano and synth on 9 and 10. Oh, no, this is right. Piano and synth. There we go. Piano and synth. Okay, and all the tracks, there's like 20 tracks of piano and synth, and they're all coming out of these 2 channels. And then I have those channels panned hard left and right. So they're basically called stems. And then the stems are all coming up on the analog console. So we get all the circuitry of the analog console and all the good stuff from that. So let's continue. We got vocals. We have backing vocals here. Is it 12 and 13? Let me see. 13, 14, 11, 12, 13. So this is vocal, and then this is backing vocal. And then those will also be stems that will just come up on 2 channels each, panned hard left and right. Boom, boom. Okay, so it's going to be kind of rough as I get this together. I'm going to start concentrating only on drums, bass, and guitar, and then I'll add these other things in, and then we'll have the whole thing together. Let's see what it sounds like now. Okay, I like this instrumental blend, but the cymbals are a little bit crazy. It's a little bit pumping. Let me see if I can adjust that down a little bit. And I'll do that in the computer.
How long would it take you to do each one of these elements? Like when you're doing this, like to get to each, how long do you focus on each one?
I generally can do an entire mix within 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, if everything is laid out correctly. I don't want to replace the live kick and snare, but I want to augment it. And there's a great product called the Slate Digital, or no, I'm sorry, it's Stephen Slate's Trigger 2. It's a great plugin that you can add samples to drums really easily. Actually, I even have some Prince samples. Let me see if I've got a Prince sample here that I can put in.
Really?
Yeah, you'll recognize the snare.
Wow.
It'll really change the character of the song, but let's see what happens. Here it is, Prince.
Oh.
Okay, Kobe, are you there? There it is. Okay, thumper. All right. And got that one in. And then let's see, snare trigger. Let's put the snare in there too. And I go here, and where's Prince? There he is. Okay. Now we can listen to these. Okay. Let me get the track running again. Mute these guys. And we're going to just listen to the kick and snare from our spank. Oh yeah. Okay, you'll recognize the snare. Right?
Yes, yes.
Right? Listen to that. Oh, that's nice. Okay, now that's going to add a lot. Let's see if we can't
Yeah, it seems like
put
it
that
works.
in there. Right? It
Yeah.
could. It might.
I know.
You know, might be completely wrong, but we're going to try it. Oh, it's good.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
And you get this.
That sounds great.
Love it.
Yeah, it
But
sounds
yeah,
thick.
you can
Sorta.
totally hear that
You can
Prince,
hear,
the
yeah,
Prince thing,
totally.
right?
Absolutely.
I think it's time to add the vocals. Can we put a compressor on channel 2?
Okay.
The distressor.
Sure.
So I like to have the vocals be really up front. And to help do that, I put it to an analog compressor instead of just doing only in the box. And I think the analog helps it really pop out. Let's see. Is it in?
Yeah.
Great. So that's here. All right. Hot for Nietzsche, right?
It's funny.
Hot for Nietzsche. One thing that I'd like to add in a mix around this point is I like to put it through the stereo bus EQ and compression to do an overall kind of shaping sonically of the entire mix. And I love doing that in the analog side of it more than having it in the box. So, and luckily we're at EastWest and they have some fantastic gear here. So we have the Fairchild 670 in the rack that I'll use for the stereo bus compression and a GML 8200 EQ. So would you mind hooking those up?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let's see. I'll play the track and then I go over there and adjust those items. Are we all hooked up?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Right. So that adds the finishing touch. And it also gives it a like kind of pumpy thing. And I really like that sound of, but there's nothing like a real analog Fairchild 670 as opposed to in the box. So let me finish up here then with some effects on the drums. I set up a little, I have a track that I prepared here, and I'll blow it up here so you can see what's going on. I wanted to have certain drum hits explode. So I edited them and I dragged them down onto a separate track. And then that track I sent through a big reverb so it would go boom, right? So, and I have that happening throughout the song in various places throughout the song where I really want it to get exciting.
Okay.
So I have that set up and I'll turn it up so that we can really hear it. Up here you'll definitely hear this, I think. So you can see that that makes it cavernous, and then it gets tight and dry again because, you know, it's only those hits, those fills that are getting the effect. Okay, let me see what else we're going to add here. So vocal effects, I think, too. And I have a couple vocal stems to add still. And then I'll double check my, my different audio levels, and we'll go down to the smaller speakers. Right now we're on the big speakers, but I want to check at low levels to make sure everything can be heard also.
Just on these, right?
Yeah.
Because right now they're okay, gotcha.
Right now we're on the big ones. Okay, I'm going to turn this down here and see what we got. Yeah. Come up here.
All is dead, so give me some debt, punk, or give me some head. From LHR, touching down at OSL, a 20-minute train right to heaven or to hell. Back in the big O, bienvenido badasso. Winter's coming on and the nights are getting longer. This weekend doesn't kill me, it can only make me stronger. My phone is low on juice.
All right.
But I got boogie-woogie shoes. The boys are back from heart attack. You know we're mighty glad to meet you. But Saturday night we shine so
Got some
bright.
harmonies.
'Cause tonight I'm hot for nature. Come on, come on.
All right. So I'll listen on, I'll take it from the big speakers down to the smaller speakers here. And then just check our level. See what we're doing here. So we're on the big ones. Now we're on the small ones, right? So you can imagine if you're just listening to it from across the room. Can you hear everything? Can I hear the kick and snare? Can I hear the bass? The bass is always the thing that disappears at low levels. Not so much bass, huh? Let me work on that.
Sure.
Winter's coming on and the nights are getting longer. This weekend doesn't kill me, it can only make me stronger. My phone is
is a fab filter.
But I got boogie woogie shoes. The boys are back from heart attack. You know we're mighty glad to meet ya. But Saturday night
Fab filter EQ, a plugin, is really good for instantly giving it's a mid-range or something that you need, that you're missing. I also love using this, just a simple SansAmp plugin on the bass. And it gives it a growl and a presence. Okay, now let's check it. Still big. Big. Still too big.
So like on something like that, what if is there ever a case where it'd be like the band would be like, whoa, we like that, we want that?
Yeah.
Like you sudden playing around, all of a sudden you're like, okay, this didn't turn out what I thought.
And that's where I'm going to ask the artist, is this a commercial thing, or is this just a creative project for yourself, like a legacy project?
Right.
Because if it's just for you to listen in your home stereo with the bass super full like that, then that's okay. I love it. I love it too. But if you compare it to other commercial projects,
Too much.
it's too much.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to do that careful balance of, it does feel good though. Doesn't bass feel good?
I
It
love
does
it.
feel really good. Let's check that one more time.
RockNRoll is dead, so give me some dead punk.
Here we go.
Need a bad soul.
Still a little too much.
Just coming on and the nights are getting longer. This weekend doesn't kill me, it can only make me stronger. My phone is low on juice. But I got boogie woogie shoes. The boys are back from heart attack.
Better.
You know we're mighty glad to meet ya. But Saturday night we shine so bright. 'Cause tonight I'm hot for you.
Okay, I'm digging the levels now. And the idea of doing a hybrid mix is now that everything is all in one line. So everything's minus 20. So let's say 6 months from now, I want to make changes to this mix. Well, if it was a regular analog mix where I'd have every fader on this console at a different level and different EQ on every channel, then it would be very, very difficult to get it right back to where it was. But since everything's just going to be minus 20, left, right, and then we have a very few things plugged in. We've got a couple compressors in the rack, and then we have the stereo bus. It's easy to recall, and you're back.
It just simplifies.
It totally simplifies, so you get the best of both worlds.
Sure.
You get the great analog sound, and then you get the power of the computer, which is invaluable for making clients happy.